which will be again most important topic for the like DevOps area, and where containerization is most important, powerful tool currently to managing the like the utilization of 100% resource and management of your infrastructure, where the microservices will be come into the picture for the complete process. Okay. Now, what is the okay, before moving to into like Docker, right? I want you to guys give your understanding on. Are you aware, guys, what is virtualization and what we can understand with it? Anyone, guys? Anything? Just either it is wrong, just let me know. What is virtualization?
I know a little bit. I think virtualization is for the hardware. I think containerization
Huh?
is at the OS level.
Very good, very good. It's close to it. Yeah, exactly. So, so guys, there are like before container, it's not kind of new technology, I would say. Earlier also there was a LSD container, which was using like very high on a technology with the VMware ESXi, and people were doing this thing in a physical data center that we call as a virtualization. Sorry, as a containerization. Now, question comes: what is virtualization and what is containerization, and how we can say like I mean the main benefit of containerization, what we are using currently, so that we can understand what exactly the things we are looking for. Okay, so that will give us the idea from the basic perspective where we can say what is the main difference between that. Okay, now if I'll talk about, guys, from the historically, so we always we know, right? We always working with the server. Okay, is your laptop also, guys? It's a kind of hardware machine. Either you can install in your laptop server operating system or a client operating system like Windows 7, like Windows Server 2012, up to you. So it will, your machine will be start acting accordingly, right? That will be historical thing. So as a server processing power and capacity increase on bare metal application weren't able to exploit the kind of your evidence in a resources. So what is bare metal, guys? Bare metal will be your hardware, where the server from the background is a hardware running in background. Okay, from the virtual machine as well. So VMs actually came in that case because see, if you have a laptop only and you want to increase that capacity, yeah, either you can update your hardware, either you one short of time you have to repurchase your hardware actually in a real time. Okay, so just to solve that problem, VMs came into the picture, and they designed by running software on top of your physical servers, where you can emulate a particular hardware system, a hypervisor, or a virtualization machine. That monitor is software, firmware, or a hardware. Okay, to create and run VM, it is a going to what sits in between hardware and virtual machine and necessary to the virtualization on a server basis. That will be VMs we can able to get the benefit from that. And what is the actual main goal of that, right? Within each virtual machine, you can run the unique guest operating system, VMs with a different operating system that can run on a same physical server. Means you have a single laptop, but you're looking with Unix VM, can sit alongside with the Linux VM, as well as you can keep the Windows VM also there. And every VM has its own binaries and libraries application that is going to be work it out with your VM, maybe like in a gigabit size or a different size also. You can able to provision according to your requirement. Okay, that is your virtualization. Now, what is container? Docker container, what is exactly and what is the basic definition of that? So, guys, operating system is a virtualization has a grow in popularity over the last decade to enable software to run predictably and well when moved from one server environment to another. But container provides a way to run these isolated systems on a single server or host OS. Containers sit on the top of a physical server in its host operating system. For example, Linux or a Windows, each container shares a host OS kernel, and usually the binaries and libraries to shared components are read-only container are thus exceptionally light, and they are only megabyte in a size. If we'll talk about, they just taking around seconds to start, right? So they always kind of the coming with a more lighter version, so which will be more into the process. Yeah, I will. Like Sangamitra, I'm going to explain what exactly this is thing which I'm like explaining here from the basic understanding part. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Now, yeah, let me try to give you guys some overview or like more understanding when we are talking about how container working and how your virtualization is working. Okay, so when we talk about virtual machine, how virtual machine is running, that we are going to check first. So if you'll see here that let me open the paint and I can able to try to draw something so that will give more understanding you guys. Okay, when we are thinking about it, so very first I have my I mean the hardware, and then I'm going to keep my hypervisor. Then I have OS, right? That is the case of your virtualization. Like for basic understanding, you have here infrastructure. Okay, this is something your guys writing could be little bit stiffer, so please allow me. Right, infra. So this will be your infrastructure, like your laptop or like it will be bigger server. Then guys, there is a one more layer which we are saying as a hypervisor. Okay, just on top of that. So we can add as a H hypervisor. So when it comes to hypervisor, then I have more, which is on like there is a, I would say, I mean, the application or your server would be there. Then how that is going to run, guys? Then you have here your, 1 second, guys. Let me take another paint. I think I can use something else. Just a moment. Okay, right. Let's see if this will work it out. So let me give a background, paint and white. Cool. 1 second. I'm just trying to give you like more visibility, right, with the understanding so that we can see. No, sorry. Come on. All right. Let's continue with this. Sorry. Okay. So here you got guys first the guest OS, which will be your operating system, right? Like your Windows machine, like your Linux machine. And then guys, you have here your which will be binaries and libraries. This is another box in between going to sit here. Okay, which we can say L, and you have a B, libraries and binaries. Okay, then guys, finally I'm going to host my app server on top of it. Okay, so this is my app server where I'm actually running my real-time application. This is the similar like options you have. Now, same thing with your like multiple machines you can able to create, and multiple like the process you can able to do it, Like you have an app, you have a LB libraries, similar, right? Whatever we just explained. So app server is here, library is here, then I have OS, same thing. Okay. So you have multiple things. Now, what I have done here, this is something, guys, like let's say you have purchased a laptop, okay, from your like for your personal use, right? Now you are going to install the operating system on top of it, like hardware. An operating system could be, let's say, Windows. Now, what is happening in Windows, guys? I'm going to install the like I have a Windows Zip, I have a Windows Office, I have a Adobe, I have a Scroll. Like more images are running, which is going to eat my like complete CPU. I know, okay, but I'm fine with it. So now, what is happening? If you are opening all the like your application in one shot, the CPU will get stuck 100%, and then it will stop serving the request, and your laptop can be crashing during that hang time. Okay, so now how to solve this problem and how to get resolved with the utilization of hardware. And also sometime what is happening, I'm using only Office in my laptop, and rest all my CPU and hard drive and your memory are free. You are not utilizing your 100% of hardware. That is the uh, main problem, where I can say I want to utilize my complete hardware. That is the requirement from organization always comes into the picture. So you can, guys, VM virtualization came in picture. You can install the VMware workstation just for a basic understanding, I would say. Or you can have like Oracle virtual machine is there, Microsoft virtual machine is there. So these are software you can able to install in your laptop. Then if you have 10 GB RAM, let's say, right, and you have 4 CPU, for example, and around 500 GB hard drive, okay, take example, then you can guys create 2 GB single machine is equal to 10. Then you can create around 2 into 5 virtual machine you can run at the same time with 2 GB. But in this condition, you should make sure whatever image I'm going to run, that should be fine with 2 GB and able to give me the required performance which I'm looking for. Okay. So based on that, you can decide either you can go with 3 GB, 4 GB, but up to you. But see the process. When you are creating, let's say, 4 GB to virtual machine, 2 GB you are leaving for your laptop, right? And that means 4 GB, you are actually utilizing 100% on virtualization. Plus, you are utilizing your laptop hardware totally 100%, nothing sitting idle. That is the main benefit of virtualization. And also, if you are looking like, let's say, one of my virtual machine 4 GB requires 6 GB for some process, and you can bear the downtime of your another 4 GB machine, you can shut down that machine and use that memory also to your neighbor machine. That is the benefit of virtualization. It's totally sharing model, okay, where we can able to get the benefit of it. This is the virtualization totally, and how it is running. Okay, I hope guys this should be clear. If not, let me know how virtualization is clear working actually. But for you understanding, I would say, guys, go with the like Microsoft, VMware Workstation download on your machine and try to install. That will give you more idea, right, how virtualization works. Because why? AWS itself using in background virtualization. Like they haven't disclosed, like they are using either Citrix or VMware or Hypervisor, any other software, I'm not sure. But they are using a kind of like virtualization on a bigger level. That is why whenever guys we clicking on launch instance, it's calling the API in background, and we getting pre-created virtual machine which comes with the AMI, and we get our instance will be ready. That is the main advantage of virtualization which Amazon is using for us all the world currently. Okay, now let's come to the container. What is then after this understanding, guys, you will be able to do the differentiate between containerization and virtualization. This is most common question asked by every kind of interviewer whenever we'll talk about anything with the Docker. Okay, most of the time. So now when it comes to how container is working, what is container different. So very first, guys, you have an infra, almost similar, right? Because definitely for anything I require infrastructure where I am going to run my services. So you have an infra first. Then, guys, you have a operating system. See, here there is an operating system. So there is no hypervisor this time. If you compare with the previous discussion on virtualization, which we just did, okay? Then you have an OS. Inside that, I'm going to keep my OS. That could be Windows, that could be Linux, whatever we are looking for. Then you have your container engine, right? Which is going to kind of, I would say, layer between your kernel and your operating system, is responsible to give a like the kind of I would say like information or communication between your hardware and between your engine. Okay, so you have an engine available. Then I'm going to keep the similar process. I can design like this. I have my libraries available, like binaries and libraries guys always require, because they are going to talk with that. They are going to keep your all the configuration information. Then finally, you have your app server. Cool. An app server is working fine based on with availability. Now, guys, what is different? If you take this container anywhere, this one, you will take only app server and move wherever you have a Docker containerization platform. You can able to move it, and you can able to you can install there, and you can place your container and start your container there, like publishing and pushing. I'll come on that, what exactly that is. Okay, so same thing, you have app 2, you have app 3 with binary libraries, and with binary libraries, same process. Okay, so this is the main difference, guys. There is no hypervisor in containerization. That is why we are getting very lighter container in terms of sizing. And if you see there in VMware also, when we starting our virtual machine, that first collecting information infra, then infra respond to hypervisor, hypervisor going to start your OS going to start your VM, kind of that lengthy process. That is why it's taking around 1 or 2 minutes. And your this one, less than 1 minute, you can start your container easily, right? With friction of seconds, I would say. That is why our virtual machine also, if you see instance in AWS, you can get less than 2 minutes. Your Linux machine will be installed and start as well. You can, that should be available like in a quick manner too for SSH. Okay, so that is the main benefit, and I would say, guys, the difference between your virtualization and containerization. Okay, so what is conclusion here, guys? What we have discussed till now, virtual machine and container differ in several ways, but the primary difference is that container provides a way of virtualize and OS, so that multiple workloads can run on a single operating system or instance with VMs. The hardware, when it comes to VMs, guys, the hardware is being virtualized to run a multiple operating instances. Containers, speed, agility, and probability and portability make them yet another tool to help kind of streamline your software development in a real-time manner, if I would say. Okay, that is the main benefit of that. Guys, I hope this basic information is clear. What exactly when we'll talk about virtualization, you should understand. When we'll talk about containerization, you should. Let me know if any concern, comment.
Dave, I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the containers, can we use 2 different OS on the same container, like Ubuntu and Windows?
You can, but that will be again your what's that? I mean, that will be again your separate container, right? because they are going to give you different libraries and different boxes. But your infra level will be same, yet so you can create your containers, multiple.
Okay, even though our OS kernel is the same, we can use a different OS for that.
Yeah, exactly. On containerization, you can able to work it out easily.
Okay, all right, okay, thanks.
Right. Guys, any query? Let me know, please. All right, cool. So, guys, for you all,
David,
yeah,
David,
yes,
David.
Revati.
So is
Yeah.
there any instance that some client will select only the containers and some will go for, is there any cases like that?
It's not the case, Revati. You most of the time get when customer is existing and they are running with the virtualization with bigger environment and they haven't migrated yet to microservices, they will find and still working with VMware or a hypervisor virtualization, which will be your VM. Okay. But most of the time, like in these days, customers are like good with technology. I would say they're adopting latest technology. So they moved already with microservices. If they are already moved with microservices, then there is no physical data center. And most of the time, when we're dealing with the cloud, you are not going to get a VM virtualization there. You're always getting a containerization with different technology.
Okay.
Right. Because if it is a cloud, then definitely container. If it is a physical data center, then definitely a virtualization there. Yeah, but it is not a kind of restriction. Like for containerization, we should have to have cloud. No, containerization can be done in your physical data center as well and on cloud as well. So both options, it's supportable because it's a portable thing. You can create anywhere and take that container anywhere to get deployed.
Okay.
So,
Hi, Dev.
thank you. Hey, yeah.
Yeah, in the virtualization, you said like by using the hypervisor, we can create different guest OS in the virtual machine. But in the containerization, we use the host OS as for the containers. But how can we use different OS in the containers? And how is it possible?
See, container, what exactly doing? Container keeping your like the images which will getting downloaded from the registry. Okay, so you can get your image, then image going to convert into the container, where container acts as a virtualization for you, right? So that is why the daemon, or you can say the communicator between kernel and your operating system, that layer will be always Linux. So OS also feel like I'm running with the Linux operating system only. On top of that, you can get anyone, right? But most of the time, like compatibility will be all the time good with the Linux only, which is most demandable, I would say, from the market perspective. Okay.
Okay, that means the containerization and the Docker will work only with the Linux OS.
Not like that. It's not restriction again, I'm saying. But yes, they released with the OK kind of tested everything with the Linux only. And in nowadays, like they have started their I think Docker version with Windows also, but they're always having like a lot of trouble and kind of buggy things, which I also got feedback from a lot of candidates and the organization. So where they still preferring to go with Linux because most faster and most compatible thing when it just comes to especially with the DevOps.
Okay, that means with Docker images we can download different OS. That's correct, right?
Yeah. Correct. You can.
Okay.
So and even while you're doing this, you can either go with Ubuntu, Ubuntu. You can go with Windows. So that image will give you the complete platform.
Okay, got it. No, thank you.
Super. Thank you. All right, great. So for you, kind of the basic understanding on what is Docker for tomorrow. And what is virtualization? We already discussed here, but if possible, you guys can get hands-on with it. Try to install VMware Workstation free of cost. And there is a Microsoft virtualization also available. That is also free of cost for the laptop. If you guys carrying Windows laptop, install there. And for Mac, there is a Fusion, I think. Fusion Workstation you can able to use for that. And you can create your own virtualization machine, VM, and play with it, and you can feel like, I'm really utilizing my 100% resource of laptop. Okay, so that will give more idea actually before start anything on a kind of Docker or a AWS, how they're working in background, what is the virtualization, what is the base of that, how to work with CPU, how to split memory, how to split your hard drive, everything you guys will get hands dirty there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I'm saying it's not kind of hard and fast thing. Tomorrow we have a Friday. So you guys can come and start with the Docker. That's fine. Saturday, Sunday, you can do with the virtualization practice. Then you will move on the Docker. So kind of like take the first background, then go with further. It's not necessary, but it is good for the basic understanding. Right? I hope guys that is fine. Let me know if any concerns still we have. Super. We are, I believe we are fine. Okay. Now let's go with very basic understanding on Docker. So because we don't have enough time from now, so I'm not going to start anything, but yes, at least I can able to give you guys something basic understanding. So that we can able to at least start something tomorrow, and that will going to help us with the understanding one, then we'll going to start with the process, and especially with the lab practice also. Okay, cool. Now what is Docker? So guys, Docker is a part of your you will most of the time hearing this word, right? That will be your portable software. One second, guys. Okay. So most of the time, portable software that containers going to simplify your application development, testing, and deployment. Means you can design everything with a very lightweight where it's going to help your developers to provide like portable images where they can able to do their plugins and dependencies, and after that they will give you the image path that will be available from your customized registry or like Docker Hub registry. We will see all these things, right, in coming chapters. So that will be more easier to understand. Okay, just for a basic understanding, so Docker is a software that is providing you the platform for building application based on containers, small and lightweight execution environment that make kind of give you the shared use of the operating system kernel, but otherwise run in a isolation from one other. So while guys you running the container as a concept, we have option available where we can say Docker is an open source tool available, or it's a project launch. I think it's launched in back 2013 that helped all the people and like mostly with the technology, and as a help to drive in a kind of trend also it is going on with the real time, guys. That will be your containerization and microservices in software development that has come to be known as your cloud native deployment also in a real time. Okay, so what we can understand here, guys, whenever you are dealing with the I would say physical data center, so they are, and if you find the services running with the monolithic. Now guys, question comes, what is monolithic and what is microservices? Anyone has any idea, guys? Okay, that's fine. So guys, monolithic is an application which is most of the time running in a physical data center with some legacy, where they have very critical application running with the monolithic environment. And I am saying like there is a because physical data center always have a I would say the problem, or there are more things which is going to be part of your like daily routine, where I can say my application is running with the engineering, right, and running with a single tiered software application, which the user interface and your data access code is combined into a single program from a single platform. Do you understand? Like your database and like your application code, because guys, when you browse any website, there are a lot of APIs calling in background. Like there is a payment API, there is a REST API, there is a browser API, advanced tab API, and shopping cart API. So whenever we're doing this, everywhere has a different APIs calling. So what is in monolithic, guys? Monolithic keeping everything in a single single box, you can say, where it is going to be run with the kind of, I would say, self-contained and independent from other computing applications, right? So that is a part of your like the philosophy which people were using earlier for the application is responsible, not just a particular task. Okay, so what is the benefit of the microservices came into the picture? So when guys I'm saying I have my critical application running with my monolithic, and where I have my I would say like the API is running, payment gateway is running, and like people are coming on the website and adding the cart like pricing and the product also, like Amazon.in. Okay, so we always going there, we searching one product, we getting more products there, and they also giving me the recommendation, right? So guys, these are all the APIs which is running out of the box, and it continuously monitoring your like clicks, and also capturing the information, kind of cache mechanism there. So in all cases we are getting the benefit of that, but there is a chance of highly failure with monolithic application in physical data center. If your single tiered server is fail, or any application going to be fail, any API not responding, your whole infrastructure going to be down in that case. Just to avoid that, we have a benefit of microservices. We are looking to migration from monolithic to microservices as well. And we can suggest to the customer before migration, hey, why don't you move first your very critical monolithic API, which you're looking to migrate to the microservices. So that, let's say my dashboard is a critical, because people are searching there, and then people are adding the software into the cart, and then they're going to purchase. Then payment API is little bit, that is not going to use all the time, but this one is the most important. Then you can take that application and do the migration in microservices. So at least that one application is responsible and giving the response from single container in background itself. So definitely your performance is going to good, and the customer response also good. It is not going to fail as well, right? Then slowly we can plan out to move over all other monolithic applications from a single tiered box, because there are a lot of chance of higher failure in the real-time application. Okay, guys, I hope we are clear. Let me know if anything with that, or please go with more use cases in your area, where you guys can able to see that, like what is monolithic and what is like microservices. I just gave you the high level design, right, and the understanding on it. Okay, so by tomorrow, guys, you should be more confident with the what is Docker and what is virtualization, and what is containerization, and difference between, because that is going to be more help while we explaining someone like interview, like company, like why you're going with Docker, why you're going with containerization in that case. Okay, so there are several question answer you can able to give with the basic understanding. All right, guys, are we good here?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm having few concerns about this AWS. I would like to know what are the real time issues or alerts you will get related to the AWS while working, and how the issues you will get to the ticketing tool or something like that. Real time examples. Could you please say any of them?
Okay. See. When it is with the AWS, so most of the time, uh, like you have designed something, okay, as architecture, and then let's say you have made some policy, for example, in auto scaling, and due to some reason, or could be the failure from AWS side, or because AWS infrastructure, I would say very rare you will see the issues, right, in a real time when we'll talk about. So most of the time when we're landing on AWS and giving the support, it's a new request first, I would tell you. With AWS existing, very rare we are going to touch infra level, and plus there are a lot of time like application team, or your developer team, and your management, if they are looking to higher availability solution or any new services going to introduce in a your business continuity plan. So being an architect, I should be able to understand the service first. I should be able to give them a background of that, and then I can able to proceed with basic POC. Then I can able to provide them a like real time kind of process. Then every month we have a like the, I would say, security audits will be there, and your data audits will be there, and infrastructure audits will be there. Like if anything sitting idle, I should get notified. Okay. And if you're using Lambda, then I should be able to get much like as much as possible into the part of what we can say the automation, right? So that is related with AWS. But with existing, very rare when like AWS has a hardware failure sometimes, very rare. But in that case also, we have to involve with the process. And especially with a new service, Sangamitra, most of the time we working closely with AWS support to get understanding on it and providing a real-time scenario. And based on that, we're discussing with the customer.
Okay. And
Okay.
what kind
But
of
slowly, yeah, go ahead. What kind of, sorry?
what kind of issues do you get mostly?
It's not issues, again, I would say with Sangamitra, because designing is done one time, right? Only implementation process you have done. But after that, if it is a, like more with the changing in current configuration on AWS and infra level, if I'll talk about, but most of the time we're using like Terraform, we're using CloudFormation scripting. So we are not going to bother complete like GUI from the console. We can able to modify the requirement like on a hardware, like on a deployment, like on a integration with any other services. We preferring to go with the Terraform scripting. You have the existing templates available. We'll go and we'll add it accordingly, and we'll start utilizing that. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. In coming time, definitely I'll pick up more topics so that I got your point. Then
Yeah.
it will be more helpful. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have any background
Sure.
experience, so we would like to know what is the real time will be. So just for that one.
Understand. Understand. Yeah, I got it. Sure. All right, guys. Then have a great time, and thank you so much for joining. Let's catch you tomorrow at same time. Please try to get some background, whatever we discussed today. Okay. Bye bye.
Goodbye then. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Bye bye.